What's up, everybody? This is Bruce, aka Geektacular, and today I've got another unboxing for you. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Retro Fighters Brawler64 Gamepad. So, for those of you who don't know, I actually crowdfunded this. So this is a company called Retro Fighters, and they make new, sort of more modern controllers for retro game systems. And they have one for the NES, that's sort of in the same vein as this one, but this is actually an N64 controller that's been redesigned to basically feel and look more modern. So if you remember the Nintendo 64 controller, and I don't think there's actually even a photo of it on here, but essentially it had the two grips on the side, and then it had a third longer grip down the middle. And you would play it with holding the middle grip and the right side. And there's a trigger on the back side of it. And then the thumb button was actually in the middle. And it was this tall, skinny stick. Not like a shorter, stubbier kind of stick like this one, which is more similar to the one on the GameCube controller that came later. This actually predates that. It was one of the first controllers that came with sort of a built-in analog stick by default. So basically what they did was they took sort of the similar aesthetics, so the same button colors, designs, the same basic button layout for this part. Then they moved the stick from a separate middle little nub here over to the left. So it's kind of more like a more modern controller, and they move the D-pad over here. So, and then they also have a turbo button here as well. And then they also redesigned the triggers so that you have more modern triggers. You don't have one weird one on the back that you use like a gun trigger. They're actually on the top like shoulder buttons. So it's basically just an N64 controller totally redesigned with sort of more modern amenities. So I was really looking forward to this. I kickstarted it because it seemed cool, and their NES controller got really good reviews. So I'm really looking forward to giving this a try, but I just wanted to kind of show you what's in the box if you're thinking of picking this up. So the front of the box is matte, and then the photo of the controller is glossy, as you can see when I run the light over it there. It says Brawler64 Gamepad, made by Retro Fighters. On the top, it just says Retro Fighters. Same thing with the side here. And this side actually has a picture of the controller on it as well. In the bottom, you got your UPC code right there. So here's the back. If you want, you can pause and read any of this. Just basically gives you all the specs and the different features of it. Repositioned Z triggers on the left and the right side. More ergonomic placement of B and A. A high quality D-pad, matte buttons. A more comfortable, responsive analog stick. Larger C buttons. So yeah, basically just kind of redesigned with sort of slightly more modern features. So let's go ahead and take it out. So when you open it up, let's see if I can get it to focus here. You're met with a little gray flap that says Retro Fighters. And you can see here, the actual controller is inside of this plastic tray. So you just pull it out like that. And there's nothing else in the box here. So I'm just going to kind of put this off to the side. And so here is the controller, and then underneath of the plastic insert is this quick start instructional manual. So let's see. This just kind of folds out, gives you some information about Retro Fighters, thanks to people who made it possible. Says that obviously you need an N64 for this, and I don't think there's any other than using the turbo, obviously I think it's just mostly plug and play. And let's see, I think if these are, I don't know. Yeah, I guess these are some of their more prominent Kickstarter people right there. So if you donate to the Kickstarter, your name might be actually in the instruction manual. But anyway, it's just a wired controller, so don't really need instructions here. It does feel pretty secure in here. I'm going to go ahead and pop it out. This is just a plastic shell. Now, the real test is, how does this thing feel? So, I can say that it actually feels really good. The buttons still need to be broken in, which was kind of always the first thing I notice when I put my hands on a new controller, is that sometimes they don't feel quite as they don't pop quite as much as the controller you used a lot in the past. But I will say I do actually notice the matte buttons a lot. On the original N64 controller, these were like glossy plastic, and this one they're actually matte. Which I do actually kind of notice. My fingers don't slip off of them quite as easily. Oh, the stick feels great. This stick is basically exactly like a GameCube stick. So it's got the same gate, which I think is an octagonal gate there. It spins around really fast. It pops right back to the middle, as you can kind of see. So that's really good. Because the N64 games, a lot of them, they kind of require that the stick returns to center correctly. So, and I know that some third-party controllers can cause problems if they don't pop back to the center. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you also have the Rumble Pack slot here in the back, the push button release. But I think if I read this manual correctly, I just saw it kind of as I was looking through it earlier. Okay, so it works with memory cards, memory packs, and rumble packs, but not with transfer packs. So the transfer pack was an accessory that lets you put in a Game Boy game, and it can interface with certain N64 games like Pokemon Stadium. I guess it does not support that, which uses the same slot, but it does support that. The transfer pack is only used on a couple of games. Most games will only use the Rumble Pack or the Memory Pack or both. But yeah, it feels really nice. It feels a bit lighter than a standard N64 controller. The triggers are right here, and I think these are actually the same because there weren't 4 shoulder buttons on the N64 controller. There were a left and a right, and then just one Z trigger. So I think both of these are the same Z trigger. So I think you can hit either of these and it'll do the same thing, I believe. Let's see. The D-pad is matte. It feels pretty good. It's a little bit shallow. There's not a lot of throw with the D-pad, but it feels all right. This is kind of sunken in here to be a little bit more ergonomic. It does feel really good. It feels really comfortable in your hand. Here's the back of it here. And then it's got what seems to be about a standard length N64 cable, maybe 4 feet, something like that. And then here is the connector. So it uses the regular N64 controller connector with the gray cover on it here. And it does have, it's funny, it's got the little oval where the normal controller would say Nintendo, but instead it's just empty. So it does kind of look very similar, but it actually doesn't have the Nintendo logo or anything, because this is just a third-party controller. It's not endorsed by Nintendo or anything like that. So yeah, I think it feels really good. I'm really looking forward to playing with this because while I do have nostalgia for the original N64 controller, I mean, it is kind of wonky compared to controllers these days. And when you're used to playing with a modern controller, 90% of the time, whenever you switch back, it does feel kind of weird. So I'm really kind of looking forward to playing some N64 games. And one of the things that always breaks on my N64 controllers is the really crappy analog stick. It gets super loose over time, and when it gets loose, it makes it hard to control games correctly. So I'm actually really looking forward to having this more shallow GameCube style stick. I think that'll be really great. So yeah, that's it, everybody. That's my unboxing for the Retro Fighters Brawler 64 gamepad for Nintendo 64. So, if you like this unboxing, go ahead and give me a thumbs up down below. That would be awesome. If you like these kinds of unboxings, if you like retro video game unboxings, if you like collectibles, if you like movies, modern gaming, anything like that, go ahead and click subscribe down below, and also be sure to hit that notification bell down below so that way you won't miss any of my future content. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.